think it's fine. We're good to go. Seems like, see, there are multiple people from, I think, your batch still they're not there, right? Few of them are still, yet to join. I think Godson, I think he is usually regular. Even Namika and a few people are already regular. But let's say, okay, there's no issue. I would like to record. Yeah, I'm sorry. No. Okay, so guys, just oh yeah, okay, sorry. Okay, so good to go, and let's begin, right? So before this, let me just get the whiteboard. Now, I see. Today the idea is very simple. Today, what we're doing is, first of all, I just want to give you the very broad, understanding about, let's say, what exactly this Gen AI field is, right? So now there's been so much hype around it, right? There has been so many people, who are creating a lot of FOMOs around, let's say LinkedIn, on YouTube. Okay, if you're not doing this, you're definitely losing a job, and if you're not gonna be pretty active in this field, eventually it's gonna take up your jobs. So there are multiple perspectives which are coming when you talk about this particular field. Okay, so idea is very simple. Idea will be, we'll start from the very perspective, like a very basic perspective of what exactly and how exactly it started. We'll eventually move into how the classical NLP evolved, and then eventually we'll move into how exactly transformer architectures came into play. Then eventually we'll understand how exactly this field of generative AI evolved, like it is evolving, let's say today. Okay, so now when you talk about, let's say, let's begin. Okay, let's say first of all, now see here, let's suppose, now when you talk about a very broad term called a Gen AI, right? A generative AI means what? Let's say people are been saying, okay, generative AI, it is doing this, it is doing that. A lot of people are creating a lot of cool applications around it, right? So now when I talk in a very broad terms, right, and if I talk in very I would say very technical terms, a simple definition that comes for a generative AI is, let's suppose, I'll first of all, let's write a very simple definition. Let's say Gen AI is a type of AI that creates new content, right? That creates new content such as text, images, music, or let's say even code, right? Now even codes are being written pretty good, right? By learning existing patterns, existing data, and mimicking human creativity. Okay, human creativity, right? Now when I say a very simple definition like this, right, now you can see that, let's suppose, a very cool application just like ChatGPT, right? It is able to do almost every single thing that we have discussed here. It can create a content for you, it can create the images for you, it can create the text for you. It also even has the ability, few applications of AI which are already built around this particular ChatGPT, They have the ability they're very easily they can just do this particular task for you. Either they can create the music for you, they can mimic the voices for you, they can create the very good codes around you, right? If you need, even now there, see, now there are few applications which are even have that understanding, they can actually write the production level APIs, right? So if I talk about few one, that's Anthropic API, right? So Anthropic, it's like, okay, Anthropic, you must have heard about Cloud A, right? So more than GPT-4, even even GPT-4, this Anthropic works fantastic. When you talk about the tech, let's say a very very technical things. When you talk about, let's say, codes, when you talk about writing or business logic, right? So this is, and I would say, and very very perfect term, I would say, how exactly a Gen AI is being evolving, right? Now, with respect to this, what we'll do, we'll just answer few questions like, is Gen AI successful? A very simple question we'll ask, right? Let's say, like, this means so much for more, right? Let's say every one or other user in the LinkedIn now, like, he's just writing about AI, he's just writing about tools, he's just writing about how it is taking up your jobs, it is just creating a lot of FOMOs, right? But is it really the thing? Okay, see, we'll talk in few terms. Let's suppose first is, does it solve the just let me just in them, yeah, okay. So the first thing is, when we talk about it, like, let's say, does it solve real world problems? Okay, now I think answer is pretty clear. Yes, of course it is doing, right? Now almost every single industry, okay, every single space, every single area, they're targeting a very very huge, let's say, Gen AI problems. Now I would say, according to me, one of the biggest industries that have been affected, or that have been benefited from this generative AI, I would say first was customer support. First was customer support. Now, the what happened was, there used to be a lot of thing around, lot of buzz around this thing always, right? Means, let's say, people are, it's especially e-commerce websites, like when they have, when they're selling something. So it's very normal from a user to get certain things. Okay, when my order is gonna come, how long it is gonna take, when exactly people are gonna come and pick up my order. So there is to be a lot of things that they just keep around that, right? So for that particular part, the human need was very very high. Means, now just understand, let's say you have to solve one single query, right? And for that particular part, this particular one user is there, he had to make a call, right? So after making that particular call, that let's say that automated call will ask for four different things. For this press 1, for this press 2, for this press 3, and all the stuff. Finally, when it gets connected over here, then he will have some kind of knowledge. Okay, then again he'll ask you about all the things. Okay, let me sir confirm your number, everything sort of things, and then he'll tell you details about it. But then also you're not sure whether you have got the perfect answer or not. What if now, let's say, again in 2 days you don't get that order in your hand, or again in 2 days no one is coming up to pick it up? So again, what you need to do, again do the same process. Means what, the effort, human efforts was very 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 huge, and the requirement of the humans was also very very huge. Now, as the field of generative AI is evolving, what people are doing is, let's suppose, whatever are their terms and conditions and policies and every single thing, they're directly passing that to the GPT. Okay, and what they are doing is, they are just creating a simple RAG based models. Will understand every single term in very very details, right? No, not to worry. So it is just like, means what we are trying to do is, a GPT do not have a knowledge about terms and conditions which are let's say specific to any particular company, right? Let's say if I have my company, so GPT won't have access to that. Okay, what exactly are my own terms and conditions? So now what we are doing is, we are just passing this particular terms and conditions into GPT, and we are saying now, hey bro, just handle it. Okay, so now next time if anyone is coming, it already had the memory component. Okay, so as the evaluation of generative AI happened, so see, when the evaluation of generative AI happened, at that time memory was a very main issue. But as it evolved into the RAG part, so we had something called as memory component, where all the previous interactions between a user and this particular chatbot was already stored. And now what was there? Now it was not a rule based chatbot. Understand? there are two things. One is a rule based chatbot and one is an intelligent chatbot. Now when you talk with a human being, how we do, we expect the intelligent answers, right? Let's suppose we say, okay, hey, please tell me about machine learning. So now, first of all, how a human can start, oh wow, that's nice that you have started in this field, and congratulations on it. Oh yeah, this is what machine learning is. But at the same time, when you talk about a rule based application, so what happens in a rule based chatbot? Let's suppose 5 years from now, before 10 years before, what used to have, we used to have the chatbots in the, let's say, in any websites, but there used to be a rule based one, means a fixed set of rules. If you ask, okay, hello, how are you, it will only answer fine. Okay, that means what, the rules, questions and answers were already set in that particular area. Okay, it was said, okay, these are the things that we're gonna ask, and this is how exactly you want to answer about. Okay, okay, fine, fine, now it's all okay. So yeah, it started, fine. Okay, now I hope my screen is visible to everyone. Okay, so now see guys, so because of that, what happened, the evaluation of this particular field was very very broad. Okay, second thing was, when we talked about, let's say, a simple content creation. Okay, so let's say, at least I never thought the content creation would be so easy, with the help of AI. Now people are literally using AI for literally every single thing. Means they are literally using it for creating the short videos, creating the short content, writing the different applications around it, creating the short descriptions for that particular websites. So means almost half of the work is now taken over by the AI. Okay, so therefore, when we talk about a question, that we asked, like, is Gen AI successful? So the answer is definitely yes. Okay, answer is 100%, it is successful for now. Right, now let's talk about the second thing. Let's say, it is useful on a daily basis. Of course it is useful on a daily basis, right? People and the coders and almost everyone, content creators, are using it on a daily basis, right? So it's just a matter of today, I'll just get my board. The Mac, it's a bit difficult to drag it. Okay, wait, sorry. Okay, now see guys, the second thing is, like, is it is it used in a daily basis? So of course I think answer is pretty clear, yes, it is regularly used on a very daily basis, right? Second thing was, is it impacting the world economics? Now guys, let's say, I think everyone might have seen, like, recently, China has released this deep seek, right? Okay, so as soon as the China released DeepSeek, the USA market dropped by 1.3 trillion dollars. Now guys, just imagine a simple AI model, right? It is just a AI model. Okay, and the what was the reason? Because they just built DeepSeek with, like, 20 times less money than what everyone have built, and 20 times less data than what everyone built. And it is having, like, insane amount of understanding. Like, it can literally think about everything. When you're asking a question in a deep seek, it is literally thinking from a first person. Okay, this is what exactly a person is asking, and now we are so it is breaking down that particular problem into multiple, let's say, phases. Okay, now he's thinking, now he's evaluating on it, now it is trying to gather the data around it, and now it is going to answer about it, and then it is reasoning about it. So which, what happened was, let's say, one particular model which is 20 times lesser than what other models are. So they did not spend like billions. Yes, they have spent, but not as much as other models have spent. Maybe OpenAI might have spent, or maybe Anthropic might have spent. Okay, so because of that, just understand guys, 1.3 trillion dollars economy just failed off. Now just imagine the amount of impact it actually is having on economics, right? So definitely it is having a very very huge impact on the economics. Okay, so that is, let's say, the thing. Now again, is it creating a new jobs? Now see guys, honestly I'm telling you, okay, you might see, like, a lot of content creators around. Okay, they might answer this particular thing in a very very different perspective. Okay, but what I think is, working into this field for now so long, one thing I would say is, see, even I'm confused. Okay, because the way this field is going, one thing is for sure ki in next 5 years, I would say more than just a gen AI engineer, the role called as AI engineer would be very very famous, very very famous. Now what exactly this AI engineer means, now, let's say as we're moving forward, then there are two different perspectives that we'll, let's say, talk about. That is a builder perspective and the user perspective. So when we'll talk about two different perspectives at that particular time, you will get a very clear idea what exactly this AI engineer means. Okay, so now, so the plus point is, I think you guys have been with me for a very long time now. I've been teaching you the whole end-to-end data science, right? So one thing you all might have seen that we have learned about rule-based systems. Means what? We have learned about more than, we can say, prediction-based algorithms, prediction-based models, right? We have been predicting multiple things. In machine learning we have predicted multiple things, in deep learning we have predicted multiple things, in NLP we have done a lot of good work, right? So see, it is gonna be from the very scratch. To everyone who has even joined new, it is gonna be from very scratch like NLP only, but I'm just telling you, okay, whatever things that we have actually done. Okay, so now that was like a very very prediction based model. Now that we have is what we have, like a user's perspective. Means what user is doing, maximum of them what they are doing, they're creating the content everywhere. So what they are doing, they're simply using the APIs, they are simply using the APIs, writing the prompts and getting the answer. That's it. Okay, that's it. They do not have any simple idea about how this particular thing came into play, how exactly, like what exactly this field actually is, what this chat gpt actually is. It is just, okay, it is a FOMO, it has been like, just like a hype. So they are just using the APIs to create the different content and application. Okay, but guys, understand, when you are appearing for an interview of a gen AI, or when you are appearing for an interview, when you say that you know about generative AI, so the one very broad term that you should know is something called as transformers. Okay, one very broad thing that you know is, you should know about is transformers. And for me guys, this has been the most and the biggest evaluation. So for me, this is the center point. Okay, means what, when we say, let's suppose now when I say, yeah, we are doing a certain task, we are doing a particular task. So for that particular task there is one certain goal, right, based on which, or let's say based on certain criteria we are doing that, right? Or let's say we say, no, okay, see, there is a certain team, but that whole team revolves around this one particular guy. He's the one who handles everything. He's the one who is, the in charge of, being the all the creative things happening around. He's the in charge of, the place because of which every single thing is, in place in today's world. So you can just understand that for me, this transformers that we say, okay, so that is like a main center point for every single thing that we are looking at today. Okay, so now what we'll do guys, now we'll look into two different sides of it. So let's say a site where, you know first of all we'll start from the evaluation of NLP, right? How NLP started. Okay, eventually we'll, talked about how transformers changed the revolution, I would say, of NLP, right? And then we'll talk about, let's say, this the we can say, no, the builder's perspective and user's perspective. Guys, throughout this, I think you all know spellings are pretty bad. Because what happens, while writing, suddenly some other key just gets pressed. So perspective. Okay, yes. Okay, so now we will talk in this particular way, right? Now see guys, if I talk about, let's say, the very initial stages, let's say, early 80s, early 90s. So the, the field of NLP was more about rule based NLP. Okay, so we simply used to call them as a heuristic approaches. What we used to call them? Heuristic approaches. Now when I say heuristic approaches, right, So now in very nomen terms in India we call it a jugaad, right? I think those are from India, they can understand this word called a jugaad. Means what? Okay, somehow we are trying to manage it. Means what? Okay, we are looking at a certain thing, let's say, every day, let's say every match, a certain player is performing very good. Means what? It is very much a good possibility that in the next match he's going to perform good, right? So what is that now? That is a very heuristic way to say that. Means what? Okay, we are just saying because he was doing this particular thing for a very long time, so he might do the same thing next time also, right? Means what? See, there is no calculation there, there is no prediction over there, there is no understanding over there. Means what? It is simply based on the logic. Okay, that is what I think. We just say, no, I just have that gut feeling he might play. So that is the thing you can say, which we call as a heuristic approaches. People used to have, they used to create these NLP applications. So but biggest problem was what? Data. Data was, they never had a data, right? At that particular time it was not possible to process that particular data also. They used to have like a very small computers with few MB of RAM, right? So definitely handling a data was really really difficult, right? So therefore what they used to do is, they used to create this prediction based model. Means what? If there is a chatbot, so when you're asking chatbot how are you, it will only say fine. That's it. Then again you'll ask, okay, tell me what's the day today. It will say, let's say Monday or whatever it is, or let's say any simple thing that is being stored. So in simple terms what, they were very heuristic approaches, right? But when the introduction to machine learning came into play, machine learning came into play, so that changed the game very badly. So now you can just see that, guys, even still the machine learning jobs are very widely available still. Machine learning engineers are preferred very widely, right? But again, now the idea is not to become a machine learning engineer. It's more about, how you can utilize that machine learning knowledge to understand this field of generative AI. Okay, so that is going to be the main perspective. But machine learning engineer still it is in the same place. Means what we used to do, let's say we used to have a data. Okay, so based on that data we used to build, or let's say now create some patterns around it. Means, we used to draw some patterns from it, draw some insights, we would say, right? Insights from it, right? After getting the insights from it, let's say, means what? Okay, we have now understood the patterns present in the data, and based on that we used to apply some kind of algorithm, right? And after applying that algorithm, then we used to say, okay, now it is safe to say that this is the model, let's say model is built, created. Now see, guys, now what was this? This was like a very classical NLP thing, right? Means what? It was like a very, the evaluation, how we can say is, let's say we started evaluate, let's say evaluation from a very classical machine learning, right? Let's say we used to have like this kind of applications. Okay, these are the ones that we used to have. So still we have it. Okay, now see, guys, one more thing. When you talk about even a GPT, even chat GPT is built in exact similar way. Okay, we had data, it was just like the data size was bigger. We just say, okay, let's say there is one person, right? So he's pretty good in, let's say, studies, right? So what he's doing, he's trying to learn from, let's say, one resource, let's say his books. He's trying to learn from his teacher, of course. Then again he has some extra tuition classes. Then again he has some YouTube subscriptions and channels where he's doing. Then again he's reading some kind of blogs, right? Now guys, understand, when a particular user is so much of, study focused, so definitely he will have much more knowledge than, what anyone else will have. Let's say there is some other guy who is, usually he will only go for his own classes, class notebooks, whatever are there. There is someone else, he might go for, okay, class and YouTube only, right? So means what? All the other models, or all the models that we used to build, right? So now see, guys, it is not like this particular person is not capable of doing this, but it might happen, there might be some kind of limitations to it. The limitations can be, okay, money part, right? He might not afford to, get subscriptions, he might not afford to get the special tuitions, right? There can be certain reasons. Okay, means what? Somehow this particular person cannot gather the huge amount of data, in very simple terms. Okay, so that is what exactly is happening in today's world. As a startup, as a person, you don't have the access to a lot of amount of data, you cannot get that. Let's say when you talk about Google is building something, or Microsoft is coming up with some cool applications. So all these particular big companies are working purely on the builder side. Okay, means they're building it because they have like what not they have, right? They have money, they have data, they have teams, they have every single thing, right? So they have that access. So now for them it is very very easy. Now they have this access. Okay, they can even take the tuitions also, they can also build these applications also, they can do every single thing. So the biggest problem is that means what, if this particular person is pretty smarter than all of them. So why it is the case? Because he has the access to huge amount of data. Okay, and at the same time when you are talking about this particular guy, so he do not have the access to very huge amount of data. Means when we lie over here, so means what we say, okay, we can create an application maximum around, let's say, facial recognition. I can create an application where the face is shown and I can unlock that, right? Or I can just say a simple, let's say duplicate question pair answers. I can just say, okay, between the two different questions, whether they're duplicate or not. I can do sentiment analysis, simple task. Whether, let's say if, the sentiment of a particular review is positive or negative, right? So it's a simple task I can do because I'm limited to something called as data. I'm limited to something called as resources, right? So even if you get the data, it is not possible for us to get the GPUs, like unlimited GPUs, unlimited TPUs, right? Because that is gonna cost. Okay, when you are trying to host that particular thing somewhere, eventually that is gonna cost you another lot of amount of money. So in simple terms, what, we don't have access to this huge amount of data. And when I talk about this chat GPT, what it has, now it literally is being trained on billions of parameters, right? So when you say, understand guys, billions and trillions of parameters means what, like when you're asking a chat GPT about, hey, tell me how can I practice my, how can I practice Python, it can answer that very perfectly. Okay, hey, tell me, I've been going through this, let's say physiotherapy, what are the main course things that I should keep in mind, it also has a knowledge about that. When you're going to GPT and saying, hey GPT, please create me a very perfect content for my YouTube channel, it also has ability for that. Means in general what, this GPT has the knowledge about every single field that is available in this world. Okay, every single field. Though yes, it is so, though that's why I told you, right? Let's suppose it cannot have access to the personal things, just like the FAQs of a particular company, or let's say we would say, the, let's say, there are personal things which companies only have, right? Their rules, their regulations, so it cannot have. That is a different part. Okay, but understand, this particular model is literally trained on every single thing. If you ask about, okay, like, hey, what exactly the section 301, just tell me about it. So now it is telling you in details about that particular part because it has access to it. Okay, it has been trained on that amount of data. Okay, so this is where the evaluation field of NLP we talk about. So now when I talk about this rule based things, right? So now see, so now this machine learning, so see, the idea is same only, but what happened now, what I told you, the access to the data, access to the resources, access to bigger size of teams, money, and everything came into play. And because of that, they are mostly onto the builder side. They are building all these particular things. Okay, so as a, see, it is as a simple developer, or let's say working in some, let's say, startups or having a startups, it is not possible for us to get all these particular accesses, right? So therefore 90 or let's say 80% of the people in today's world are on the user side. They're on the user side, they're just using it, whatever it is there, they're just using it, they're using the APIs, creating the content, they're using certain thing, just applying some kind of algorithms to it, and they're using it, right? So we all come into the user side. Okay, of course, like you can always be on the builder side because we have already built the similar kind of applications, right? In machine learning we have built that, in deep learning we have built that, so we have been on the same phase. But when we talk about such a high level and intelligent model, so for that particular case, then we need an access to a very very huge amount of things, not only a simple data and the maybe we can say not only the data and the memories. Okay, much more things than that. Okay, so that was about the very classical NLP that we talked about, let's say rule based NLP, in which what was the case, let's say we used to have the something called TF-IDF. Guys, okay, don't worry, right? We'll learn about every single part, talk about TF-IDF or bag of words or every single thing we'll learn about how exactly these things work. So on a very classical level, when I want to train a particular NLP model, So for that particular model, what are the different things that I actually require? So we'll be doing every single part of that, right? So now second thing came into let's say thing was NLP evolved very great with machine learning, right? NLP evolved very great with machine learning. Means what? Algorithms like Naive, okay, or algorithms like simple SVM. So these algorithm had the very broad understanding ki how exactly a particular problem can be solved using machine learning. Okay, so means see the guy's problem was what? Understand, NLP can be solved using both the perspectives. Means you can solve the whole NLP using machine learning approach also, and you can solve the whole NLP using the deep learning approach also. So the main difference lied where? Okay, let's say now let me just show you. Let's suppose machine learning. Now just look at this one, right? Let's say there was, yeah, yes, exactly the perfect one I got. Now this guys look at this one, right? Let's say, so when exactly problems started coming in? So this is where problems started coming in. So what happened was, as the classical machine learning algorithms were doing very good, there was no problem in that. It was doing the very good predictions, it was giving you the better models. But the problem started was, as the amount of data started increasing, understand here, as the amount of data started increasing, the older machine learning algorithms started decreasing its performance. In simple terms, what? A machine learning algorithm did not have that understanding or capability to handle the very huge amount of data. Okay, yes, up to certain limit, or we would say the algorithms like XGBoost or random forest, so they are like evergreen algorithms. They will always work on good amount of data. Okay, but when we had a, even those failed when it comes to when it came to very huge amount of data. But then what happened was, as people saw okay, as the data is increasing, something called as deep learning is doing a very great task. Something as deep learning is doing very great task. Okay, so now this deep learning started evolving so much, so people started exploring more and more onto the side of deep learning. People started exploring more into the side of deep learning. Means what? At that particular time, NLP evolved with what? NLP evolved with a deep learning. And when we say that NLP evolved with deep learning, we explicitly mean by something called as RNNs. RNNs. So in very simple terms, guys, RNN you can say is the first model of ChatGPT. In very simple terms, RNNs is what? Is the first model of ChatGPT. Means in the first time RNN was there, then eventually the next things came, then eventually this thing started let's say evolving in this particular area. Now when I say RNN, it's called as recurrent neural networks. So we'll be looking into this also, so do not worry about it, right? So now into the RNS, what happened was, there were certain issues that keep on popping. There were certain issues that people started facing. It was not very effective to solve, let's say, the very big amount of text. Let's say if the text size is, let's say, maybe 20 lines, 30 lines, 40 lines. So in that particular area, it was difficult for a simple RNN to remember all the different context. Means in very simple terms, what can I say? Let's suppose you are going for a movie, right? You are in the movie, and let's say you came back home, and let's say your mom asked, okay, how was the movie? What exactly it was about, right? So then you as a human being, you can perfectly explain what exactly the movie was. Why? Because see, from a whole 3 hours of movie, you won't be repeating the word by word. You won't be okay, yeah, this is the word, this is the word. You won't be telling that word by word. What you will be doing? You will just try to summarize that, because you already have that particular thing in your mind. Okay, yeah, what happened in the first scene, what happened in the second scene, what happened in the third scene. Means we have that pattern understanding thing, or time thing, where we can actually remember very longer durations also, right? So now understand, when I want to do something called as next word prediction, means let's suppose we used to do that filling the blanks, right? So when I want to do this particular task in the next word prediction, so what I need for this particular part? The previous understanding. Whatever is the previous sentence that is written, I need to have the knowledge about that, then only I can do this particular next word, right? then only I have that access to do that. But let's suppose now I don't remember what is written over here. Okay, in this whole sentence I don't have any idea what is written. So even is it possible to predict the next word? It is impossible, because we don't, when we don't know the context of that particular sentence, what it is talking about, it is not possible for us to predict the next word, right? So for that, what was important? To remember the long term sequences, to remember the long term sequences. So in evaluation to this RNNs, the next we had was something called as LSTMs and GRUs. We had LSTMs and GRUs. Now, you know, sorry, okay, so these LSTMs and GRUs actually evolved this particular field pretty good. Means, on for a very longer period of time, people are solving the problems using LSTMs and GRUs. Okay, and then came something called as encoder decoder architectures, right? So when I talk about this encoder decoder architectures, means what? There is something called as encoder only architecture, decoder only architecture, transformer based architecture. So after this particular thing, we moved on into the something called as transformer based architectures. I think everyone might have heard, let's say, in 2017 there was a paper called as attention is all you need, is published, was published. And guys, this is what changed the complete game for whatever we are seeing today. This was the starting point. From here, everything changed, like, just in a blink of an eye. Everything just happened. So, at least as an engineer, I've been working since very long now. So, we never thought, this day will come this early. Means whatever we are seeing today, we thought, maybe by 2040s you can expect something like that. But now, the way this field has evolved, it is only because of something called as this paper called as attention is all you need, which has a very 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 broad understanding, and we call it as transformer based architectures, based architectures. Okay, and guys, now understand, when you talk about transformer based architectures, right? So it means what? This particular architectures has the very very deep understanding about all the different perspectives. Means it will have the ability to handle the long sequences. It will have the ability to let's say understand that quick short things into this data. Means what? Let's suppose I'm writing, hello, I went to the bank. Okay, and someone says, okay, hello, I went to the river of the bank. So I went to the bank of the river, let's say. Okay, now guys, see here, we know that this bank and this bank has a very different perspective, right? So but some of the classical NLP or classical deep learning models will fail to understand this, because it's a bit confusing, right? Both of them are using bank and bank. So now if you want to crack this particular bank, you should know how to handle the sequences, or you should know how to understand the contextual understanding about it. You should have the idea ki how to handle the contextual understanding about it. Contextual understanding is very very important over here. So now in this particular case, the problems like this, where it is very difficult. Now see guys, as a human it is very easy for you, but understand, as we have seen the evaluation of this particular field, this particular thing is insane. Okay, this is like insane. Understand, someone is understanding the sarcasm. Let's say you are like, hey, this movie is just so good, it's just a hype. There is nothing like that. It's like very sarcastically we are saying, okay, this very good is hype. So somehow what, let's say a classical NLP model or a deep learning model, that will do, as soon as it will look at, okay, very good, it will say, okay, that is a positive review. But we know that that is not a positive, it is completely a sarcastic review, where people are trying to talk sarcastically, which is completely a negative review. So having those kind of understanding, transformer actually exploded. Okay, it evolved like anything. Okay, and as soon as let's say this transformer architecture came, and guys, see, understand, okay, they had no idea this transformer is gonna be this huge. Okay, they had no idea this transformer is gonna be this huge, because the okay, wait. Okay, because the thing happened was, understand here in very simple terms, what was the main idea? What they thought was, let's say, whatever, see guys, what is the biggest thing that we have currently is the textual data, right? More than 80, or I would say 70% of the data that is generated in today's world is a textual data. Because understand, emails are online, your Social media is online, Twitter is there, Insta, Facebook, emails online, learning is now online, notes are online, every single meetings are online. So every single is into the text. Okay, so text is very huge, trillions of data points on the text are generated on a daily basis. Okay, so now understand, definitely we need a very very expertise to handle this huge amount of data, right? So now what happened was, when this transformer came into play, so what was their main idea was simply to make sure we are able to handle the text data properly. That's it. That was a simple idea. Apart from that, nothing was there. But they did not know it is going to evolve in such a different way. Now you can see, right, in the images you can say diffusion models are there, something called stable diffusion models. All are they're doing is using some simple APIs to create musics and whatnot, and images. So it's like evolved into the very very different field now. Okay, so transformer architecture was the one where everything started. And guys, remember, whenever you sit for any Gen AI interview, you will be expected to know that how exactly the transformer based architectures actually work. They will expect you to explain, okay, how the encoder architecture works, how exactly decoder architecture works, how exactly encoder decoder is happening. So when you say that it is a problem in a certain solve, let's suppose it is doing a next word prediction, or let's say it is summarizing a task, then how exactly it is doing that, what kind of process is going inside this transformer, which is allowing you to get such a cool answers, which is allowing you to get such a perfect answers, right? So there might be something that's happening inside. So understanding that architecture is very very important. Okay, so while understanding the architectures, we'll start from the very simple encoder decoders, how exactly they came into play, and eventually we'll move into the advanced things of like how exactly the transformer based architectures came into play. Okay, so how exactly they're performing the tasks, then again what was some kind of issue into that, then how exactly we evolved into the part of GPT. Okay, so guys, GPT is definitely not from today, right? So we might have heard about BERT, right? So BERT is like one of the transformer based architecture, GPT is another transformer based architecture. Okay, so there's T5, there are multiple. So when GPT came into play, so GPT was not that huge as it is now, right? GPT 3.5 was the breakthrough, right? People started using GPT 3.5. After that, it was let's say very huge breakthrough. GPT 1 was there, GPT 2 was there. We used to use that for a simple task, just like what we used to do. So something called as fine tuning, right? We used to fine tune on that. So the fine tuning on the transformers were much more easy, right? So I'll tell you about that also, what fine tuning means. What exactly that means when we talk about two different perspectives, builder perspective and the user perspective. When we'll discuss in details about that, at that time it will be easy for you to understand all these terminologies. But for now, just understand evaluation. So this is how we evolved from the very heuristic approaches to classical machine learning to classical NLP to let's say bird based architectures, and then we are into something called as large language models. Large language models. So these models are purely based on the high level understanding and learning. Large language models means it's very huge. The data and the training that has happened with it is like such a huge key you can't even imagine, right? You can just understand, you can literally ask to any certain extent and any certain level to GPT. It has that ability to answer that particular part. You ask him, okay, think about it, now it is thinking about it. Means what? Now we have AI based models. Now chatbot is not simply saying, okay, when you ask, hey, how are you, it is not only saying, okay, hello, fine, and thank you. Now it is also asking, hey, hi, how are you, have a wonderful day, we are doing very good, how are you, what are you up to, what you gonna do. Means just like a human being, right? Let's say when we meet a friend, when we say, okay, hey dude, how are you, so in response what we do, hey, hi, how are you, man, how are you doing, what you gonna do, what plan for today, right? So that is like a very great understanding now this GPT and I actually have built. Means what? We are literally trying to mimic the human brain. Okay, so the idea of deep learning, okay, so when I talked about let's say neural networks, right? So the idea of neural networks was what? To mimic the human brain. But now the idea of this particular thing is not to just mimic the human brain, it is literally performing like a human brain, right? Up in many different tasks now, it has even overtaken like humans also, right? Means let's say summarizing the whole document in like 1 second, such a easy task, right? Now this is how
I have a
exactly.
question.
Yes, yes, please.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I need to, as you were talking about the NLP growing to LLMs, and because of almost every data is online, and based on what you've told us in the past about training, right, or machine learning models, they train with data, right? So if LLMs like ChatGPT is trained with maybe trillions of parameters online, and I ask it question and it generates new documents for me. So I saw online somebody said in the next 3 months, I mean, this is 2025, next 3 months, 80% of the words or new documents or new whatever created, text created, will be created by AI. So don't you think this will become overfitting when AI is creating stuff by eventually when AI is getting the data it already used to AI generates data, it sends it out, and we pass that same data to AI to generate new data. So AI keeps generating the same thing. Won't you get tired or something? I will get to a point where AI will crash.
Okay, that's a pretty interesting question. Okay, so first of all, see, the thing is, when you are passing a data to AI, right? So AI is let's suppose now you are asking certain to your GPT, right? So when you're asking a certain thing to a GPT, so GPT in response is giving you, let's say whatever you are asking, response to that, it is giving you some kind of response. That means what? Some kind of data you have given to that particular GPT, right? So now understand, we are not storing that particular data inside a GPT, right? It is synthesizing the data. That is like, okay, it might happen, okay, it is trying to synthesize the data by itself. But now understand, see, currently, one of the biggest problems that generative AI that actually faced was something called as hallucinations, right? So when I talk about hallucinations, means what? Let's suppose there are multiple things, okay, there are multiple very specific things where GPT do not have the idea about. Let's say if I ask a very specific thing, okay, let's say into this particular medical segment, these are the medications that I'm taking, so I'm really not sure what I should do about it, or whether I should take it or not, or what kind of things I should do with it, in very simple terms. So when GPT do not have a knowledge about this particular part, right? So what it was doing, it was creating the hallucinated responses. It was randomly making up the responses, right? So the one thing is that, LLMs will never overfit. Okay, yes, there is a very high possibility for the, if it's a machine learning model, overfitting is very normal, right? But when you talk in terms of, let's say, LLM, right? So they are the models which are self-learning models. Means the more and more that data you are passing, so they are trying to process in a they are not trying to store that data. They are trying to store, let's say, use that particular data to gain more and more broad understanding about it, right? So when even it will synthesize the data, so we are not directly let's say inserting that data inside that, let's say, GPT model, right? It is just like, means what, whatever you would be asking or whatever data it will be synthesizing, so that data will be stored somewhere. That will be, let's say that data will be given, or let's say used for some other kind of tasks, right? But it will not synthesize the data and just keep it and store it himself, like, it is not going to retrain that particular model again and again, right? Because the GPT model, let's say, it is already trained, and now it is in a phase where, it also has the access to all the web links. Means, let's suppose when you search about certain thing, you will see that, it is thinking, it will say, okay, it is thinking, okay, searching the websites, right? Means what? Now it is already searching this particular data, it is already seeing, okay, yeah, what kind of things are actually there in this particular what kind of answers I should give with respect to a particular answer. Means what? So see, now when you say that it has access to all this particular data, right? So it doesn't mean that, it is taking every single website and storing it inside him. It just has that something called as RAG. It just has that understanding, it can access those kind of data. Okay, so models will never overfit. Like, even when AI will start generating the, let's say, even they start synthesizing the data, which I think is not very very soon gonna happen. But because, see, understanding, just a second, guys. Okay, Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So now see, when you say ki it is gonna synthesize the data, means what? It will be used for some other kind of applications. Maybe building, let's say, small scale application which is specific to your use case only, right? Now, guys, see one more thing I'll tell you. Using GPTs, bigger companies are very very, let's say they are, see, they have like one of the biggest problems that currently happening in this particular world are, with respect to every single, let's say LLM, is about security. Guys, just understand it's completely open source. Okay, so they explicitly mention that we do not take the guarantee about, let's say security. We do not provide or guarantee any kind of security to your data. You have to keep your own measures and then you have to think about it. Okay, so understand, like whenever we are passing any certain type of data, or whenever company is trying to deal with this particular GPT type of problems, or let's say GPT type of models, they have to have like a very structured rules. Okay, they have to have like a very structured rules where they should know what kind of data should be passed, because they know that data can be leaked anytime. Okay, so even so that's what I told you, like even when it is synthesizing the data, so that data will be used for some other type of applications. So GPT, or let's say, it is not like, we are synthesizing the data and again passing that data inside that particular model to train it again. Why would you do that? As long as you are not passing any new data, so it won't do that, right? So I think that might have, answered the, question in pretty broad way. But still, if you have anything follow up,
But
I would be happy. Yes.
yes, but if we look at it on the other side, you said companies are scared because of security. Security of what? If you say GPT is not storing data, so why should I be scared of security? I just say, okay, using the RAG, I can tell it to look at my data on all how my company processes a particular product and use it to suggest some safety measures, right? And we have the one that is connected to the internet now, whereby as GPT as a search, whereby you search and it give you this summary and description of information. So nothing is stored. Why are we bothered with security? Tell me, please.
See, in short, you are just trying to ask, like, how security can be an issue when we talk about, let's say, models like GPT or any large language model, right? So, like, companies are not trusting, this much so much because there might be problems, the data, their main data can be leaked. Okay, now see, first of all, understand here. When we talk about, so see, when you say a GPT is not storing the data, or let's say, see, GPT has a component called as memory. GPT has a component called as memory. Okay, so the thing is, when you go to the chat GPT, you will have all your past conversations stored over here, but those past conversations have a limit. After a certain limit, it will ask, so why those conversations are stored? They are simply stored because whatever you are doing, you should just start resuming work from there. Means there should be a memory component where, like, you don't, every time you don't need to come and try to ask every single thing from very very scratch. Okay, so from this particular perspective, if you understand, let's say now suppose I have a certain amount of data, or let's say I have, let's say, done certain kind of things on GPT. I might have been asking him, so he has all that particular components, and it is already there, right? Let's say, so understand, they are not taking that data and keeping it with them. Understand, like OpenAI is not, saying, okay, whatever you have done over there, we are keeping everything with us. It is just like they are providing a simple memory component where you have that ability, okay, up to this certain limit you can, have your conversations here, but after that particular time, if it crosses, then you have to delete some of them and then only you can use the next ones. So in simple terms means what, whatever things I told, no, there's memory that is being stored over there. Okay, so that is a, problem where the security things comes into play. The data leakage risk is very very high, because see, whenever you talk about, let's say, when you talk about any big companies, right, so adopting to the models like this large language models or GPT model or any particular model, so the biggest risk is something called as data leakage. Because see, when we talk about the companies like, let's say, any kind of LLM, let's say you talk about OpenAI, or let's say you talk about Google's, Gemini. So the thing is, whatever sensitive information that you pass to it, okay, so see, now recently I'll just tell you a very simple thing, okay. What happened was in my previous company where I used to work, so there was this junior developer who started working. Okay, and like he was pretty scared to do like the tasks and all, so he was not that aware of it. So what did he do? No, by mistake, he literally passed the whole repo to ChatGPT. So in that particular repo, there was even an APIs of the company. Even there was APIs of this particular company, different APIs, sensitive information, whatever, let's say our login credentials, every single thing was there. Guys, trust me, as soon as he uploaded over there, within next 1 hour, the company got the bill of $1,000. That is 75,000 rupees in 1 hour. 75,000 rupees in 1 hour. So now you tell me, when you say that, so this is like a very, very live example that happened in front of us, right? Because they explicitly mention that we do not provide any security to your data. Whatever you are typing over there, that is your own, at your own risk. Okay, so there is always a possibility of data leakage. And guys, this feature, that's we say, like this, uh, hackers and fishers, they're always behind this particular thing. If as soon as if they get something, they'll just start keep using that particular API and do their own works, right? Now understand, like within a span of like 1 hour, if you think like 75,000 people, 75,000 rupees bill that we got, right, means what? Minimum 10 to 20 people have used that particular API. Now guys, just understand, you see what exactly he did. He has his own laptop, he has his own login over there, he is being using his own chat GPT over there. As soon as you uploaded it into his own system, his own attack, every single thing, how exactly suddenly it got exposed, right? Means what was the reason? So therefore, there are like multiple things that companies currently take into the considerations, right? So whenever you are even talking about a certain thing, you have, see, in a companies, I'll tell you, if you are more into research and development, companies will never ever even allow you to use the GPT. Okay, because understand, that is their bread and butter. Like literally, when they will do certain kind of research, then only that particular thing will be going out. But when you are taking the help of a GPT and you are saying, okay, this is what I'm trying to build, and this is how exactly we are doing that, when you will say that, eventually you are leaking your data. So in short, what, like, there are multiple ways to let's say lose your data. So that is one of the biggest reasons that people usually have to take care. So as far as when you talk about, let's say, this very compliance and regulations, let's say many industries like finance, healthcare, so they must have this GDPR, or let's say we call it as HIPAA. So I think in US HIPAA is there, right? So I worked with US healthcare, right? US healthcare system, so I know, like, we had this, have to have this measures of HIPAA, HIPAA compliance. Like you have to take care of those regulations whenever you are talking about security of that particular data. Okay, so that was very, very core problem. So when I say that security is the reason, so this is why the security is the reason, right? So like you simply cannot trust, okay, yeah, I can literally pass you everything and it's very, very safe to say, okay, it's very, very fine. No, it is not. Okay, because they explicitly don't mention ki we take this guarantee of your security of the data. Okay, so it's like and one of the biggest problems with these kind of models is hallucinated responses, right? Because now understand, as a fresher, or let's say even as a professional who do not have an idea about a certain topic, so when he or she is trying to ask something to this model like ChatGPT, so in that, what it is doing, it is trying to, sometimes when it do not have a specific knowledge, it will try to create the hallucinated responses. Hallucinated responses means what? Responses like random responses. I am asking, okay, tell me how to play football. It do not have the idea about football. It will just start saying, okay, take a bat in hand and do like this. So it now, definitely, in very simple terms, I'm trying to say, like when it do not have a knowledge about it, it will just make up the things. Okay, so whatever we called as vulnerability, okay, and whatever we called as jailbreak attacks, that is phishing attacks, that is where LLMs can be tracked completely. Okay, so it is no big, because understand, right, even like as a let's say as a as big as OpenAI model, if they start taking the security about every single thing that you're writing on this particular let's say GPT, it's gonna be problem for them, right? How exactly they're gonna handle everything? That is not gonna be possible. Okay, so therefore, companies, what they do is they always try to deploy these models on their own premises. Okay, means just to gain the complete control over it. Let's suppose now solutions like Mistral is there, Llama is there, okay, Falcon is there. So these are the kind of models which are open source models. So what they're doing, they are taking that particular model, fine tuning that model completely for their own business problems. Okay, and then they will explicitly, have that particular model only inside their own premises. Means hosting will be their own. Now currently what's there, it's a open AI hosting. Like, you don't know what kind of cloud they're hosting in, you don't know where your data is going in, you have no idea about it, and you can't even control that, right? You can't even control that, is not your model, right? So when, what companies are doing, they're trying to retrain such kind of models, and then they're trying to have their own set of, let's say whole industry, sorry, own model, where that company only will be using that model. Now that company, inside that, it will have all this particular data about the company, all the employees, every single part of. Okay, so make sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so see, the thing is, eventually you have to take up care about, the security and all. That is like the most important and major thing. As of now, you might be asking every single thing to a gpd, you might be passing repos to it. Let's say if you don't understand or debug a certain code, you will literally pass the whole file to it, right? So that many of them do. Okay, I have seen like 90% of the freshers. Okay, because the thing is, now they don't have something called as logical thinking. They're dependent on something. Okay, they're dependent. Okay, a gpt will solve a certain thing for me, but that is not, really a case. Like, everything cannot be solved using gpt, right? So therefore, eventually you have to think about the security as a main, I would say, focus. Okay, so that is how, I hope you just got a very good perspective of, what exactly I'm trying to say. So first of all, it is not retraining. It's not like, okay, you are passing a certain data, it is not retraining. It is just trying to use its own intelligence and whatever data it has. That's it. You are asking a question, and based on that, it is trying to answer those questions. Okay, I hope you understood it. Okay. Okay,
So,
anyone?
but
Yes, please.
there are still things today that ChatGPT have not seen. Like, he has no way of doing it, because over this weekend or past 2 days, I've been trying to build um, something to take. I recorded my son's soccer game. I want to put it together and tell AI to generate um, an output that shows the highlights of the game, when the goals were scored, highlights and stuff. And so far till now, nobody, it hasn't worked. Then finally, I saw somebody post something on GitHub, did using like 4 different AIs combined, and doing it with AWS, Bedrock, and the process is going to cost money. So I have to abandon the thought of it. But I hope with this class, doing this, I will have some ideas of how to force AI to be able to generate the stuff I need to create.
Oh, okay. Like, I did not understood if you're asking something or telling. Okay, I understood.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm saying that
yes, yes,
AI doesn't know everything yet. I mean, it can generate highlights of soccer
yes.
game. Even with his you said it's self-learning.
Yes, yes, yes.
It's not learning nothing yet. I still feel, I mean, I'm upset with it because I wasted a lot of time trying to make it work.
Yes, yes. I can, totally, get into your point. So therefore only I told you, right? So therefore I think you might have solved an issue. Like, it is not gonna take up a jobs, first of all. Okay. And second thing is, when you talk about this thing, right? On a high level, I'm telling you, let's say if you are, if I ask, okay, hey, can you just build the whole system design for me, right? That is not possible. A gpts can't do that. Yeah, up to a certain level, on a junior level, and whatever entry level things that it can do, okay, create a very proper code for me, write this particular code for me, but again, guys, again, one more thing you always have to remember. So when I say that you have to build a logic, so why you have to build a logic? Because even in a companies, let's say a certain task is given to you, so that task will be given with respect to the kind of problem you are trying to solve. Okay, so it can yes, exactly, right. So when it says, okay, this is how exactly you have to move for a particular problem, so then you should have that curious mind ki, okay, okay, what kind of things I should write in a prompt in a GPT so that it can do the exact same work for me that I'm expecting from it. Okay, so in very simple terms, that is what exactly we are doing currently. Okay, so I think that was pretty broad discussion about these things, right? So now we talked about classical NLP, we talked about machine learning algorithms, right? We talked about how deep learning has evolved into LSTMs, GRUs, transformers, and now when we talk about this Gen AI and LLMs, okay, then we talked about, let's say, GPT, then we talk about BERT, okay, then we talk about, let's say, um, all these models you see, right? And GPT-4, 5 anthropic models and everything. So these are like, the Gen AI models, like a large language models. And when you talk about the real world use cases, like multiple things are there, right? Within a minute you can do a sentiment analysis. Within a minutes you can create now chatbots, right? Now you don't need to explicitly train any kind of deep learning model. You explicitly don't need a lot of amount of data. All you need to do is just build a simple rack pipeline, and with that just pass this particular data into it. Okay, so therefore guys, what the way, see guys, see, first of all, this field is very evolving, right? I mean, see, it's just like 2 years that we started talking about generative AI. It is like literally nothing, and you will see, even on the YouTubes, you will not see a very very proper playlist who is trying to cover it. Whoever are trying, they're just trying. It's just a trial and error that is going currently. Okay, so therefore I always tell everyone, like, this is pretty good time to enter it, because now what we are doing is, now people are in a phase where they want to open these particular bots, whatever things that they have in place. Let's say they have all these large language models in place. Now currently what they are like completely black box, right? So as we have seen in TF-IDF, right? So what we used to do, we used to create the features. Okay, for every single word we are creating some kind of feature. So that feature we are shown, okay, yeah, this is the feature that we have created. But now inside this particular let's say this transformer, we have no idea what is being created. So therefore eventually we'll start, to open it, and the evolution will keep on going, right? So now, okay, yeah, anything, yeah, please.
Yeah, I think you said now is a good time to enter it, though I kind of fear that I'm already late, maybe 1 year late, 1 year behind, because I was in a webinar where they said, okay, what do you want to develop? Give us an idea. And anything I think about, somebody already done it. Anything I think about, there's an AI for that. There's even some website called there's an AI for that you go look at, and you see anything you can think of, somebody already created it.
See,
Agents came in last year. I said, okay, I'll work on agents. By this January or this March, there are millions of agents. Come on.
see,
I think we are behind. We have 4 weeks for this course, 4 months. By the time we are done, they will be talking about AI again. They will be talking about AGI.
okay,
So we
see,
have to come back to another class to learn AGI.
okay, see, okay, first of all, I'll just answer this in, like, very simple terms. First of all, like, you guys are thinking too much, okay? I mean, just understand, like, millions of jobs are out there, millions of people are working on the same thing. Like, still millions of companies purely work on only machine learning. They don't even look at that particular part, right? Now understand, okay, you said, okay, this is there today, this is that today. Now understand, let's say we run an AI development company as a service based company. We provide the services to the clients. Now before us, there were already millions of, companies who are doing the same thing. They were also providing the services, they are also doing the Gen AI task, they are also doing the everything, they are also doing the same thing. Then I should have thought, okay, why to build now? Because it is already there. There is no chance that I can do anything into that. Why should I do that? Right? But we still started. We still got the people. People are still interested in us. They still want to work with us. Guys, understand, just because a month or a 2 year 10 years ago there something happened or something came up, doesn't mean that you can't start with that particular part. Maybe you can start and take some different approach to it, right? So just because the people are building some kind of simple LLMs or simple Gen AI models, or creating something around it, so doesn't mean that, like, that is done. And so why you want to get into something that is yet to start? Like, okay, These are very very new things. Now understand, see, since 30 years machine learning is going, since 30 years programming is going, but still people are today building the companies, still people today are building the software, still people today are doing some kind of stuff around it, right? You might have Airbnb, okay, you have a Airbnb, but now in India we have like 10 different things like that. All the 10 have the same, all 10 have the same kind of market, right? So you are thinking from the perspective of a builder, okay, means you are thinking, if I build this, how that is gonna work, okay, if I think about that, how it's gonna work. See, it will work. Just try it, just do anything. I would say even if you just build a simple machine learning model and if you want to sell it, there would be people, if you have that that understanding, if you have that just we say no, there is some marketing thing into that. So when you have that, you will sell that particular thing also. Okay, so it is never about, okay, so it's like the more and more you will keep on thinking, so then you don't even have to wait for a minute. Let's say as soon as anything is coming, let's say Google is going to come up with something else, some other thing is going to come up with something else. Now at the same time, let's suppose why people wants to work with my company as a AI development company, because let's say MNCs are charging them $1 million for, let's say, simple chatbot creation. We are charging them $10,000. When we are doing a certain task in such a perfect way in a such a small short period of time, giving them such a high quality time and everything, at the same time when you go to an established company, okay, there even to talk with them you need to, let's wait and schedule a meeting, let's say 10 days back. So, like, do you think as a customer perspective it is really feasible for them? Definitely not, right? They want someone who can be in contact with them, who can actually, give them all the insights that they are doing, over there. They can actually walk away through the codes that you are writing over there. So, these are the things also that matter, right? It's not only about coding. Yeah, just because someone has now built something around agentic AI doesn't mean that okay, now he's established and you are nowhere. Like, what kind of perspective is that, man? I don't believe in that. So if I am running certain thing and if I am getting the clients, why I am getting the clients? It's not like people don't have, like, there are thousands of, or I would say lakhs of companies are there who have literally no idea about AI. Yesterday, I'll tell you a very personal thing now. Yesterday I met with a CXO, CXO of a company, right? So one of the he's like into his 60s now, about to retire in a year or so. So he's now currently a CSO of a company. So he said, like, recently one of my friend has retired as a CEO of a particular forum, okay. And the thing is, now they are really looking for he is really looking for someone who is completely from a technical background, who are working in the technical space, and they just want to build something around it. Now just understand a level of a CEO. So will he not have the contacts to different MNCs? Can't he just give one call? Okay, hey dude, this is what I want to do. But if you really think like that's the only thing that matters, okay, they can build, so they'll just gonna call and tell us to build something. No, right? There are perspectives to it. He has to think about the financial conditions. He has to think about the marketing conditions. He has to think about his own establishments. When you're doing a certain thing, let's say you're asking MNC to do it, or some very high established market to do it. So then it's, see, all these companies, that big companies you talk about, they have their own markets. Means, let's say they just, when they serve B2B, so Wipro will give it to Tata, Tata is given to Wipro, they're given to Tesla, Tesla is given to Apple, Apple is going, so they're revolving there. They have a lot of money, okay. So all the small tasks that are there, let's say simple level projects are there, so if you approach the MNC, they'll ask you for $2 million to do the same task. People are literally doing in 1% cost of that particular thing. Why would you not come to me when I'm teaching a certain thing in, let's say, $100, and someone is charging you $2,500, and when I can give you the much more better value than what he is giving, why you won't come to me, though he is very established, right? Now see, now if I think in that perspective, I have people like, Great Learning is there, and like Scalar is there, so there are very big institutes, right? They're very established. Their marketing is like big celebrities are doing their marketing. Then why would I even think of even entering this field when I know, okay, I don't have any scope over there? That is not a way to think, right? I mean, that's totally different. So just because, see, people are literally building the same thing. Let's say there was a Google, someone built the web browser only, right? There are millions of people who are, I am also using Brave browser. Why I am using? They just created something unique. Oh, you won't have to see a lot of ads. One simple uniqueness, and people are using that. It's not like they don't have a Google, right? But they're using it, right? So see, there are perspectives to it, right? I mean, if you think in a perspective, okay, there is always gonna be, it's already established, so I can't do anything. Don't think in that way. stick at one place. First of all, learn how this whole generative AI flow is working. You might have read somewhere, that's a different part. But when you actually implement in that, at that time you can think about thousand different things, right? Now we are currently planning to build a product which is completely related to something called as a certain, let's say, family. Okay, so though it is already there, it's not like it's not there. Okay, now we are creating a product and giving it to the schools. There's just schools in the different areas in here nearby. So it's not like they, so it's very easy for the schools to go to someone who already has that particular product in very established product. He can definitely go to that. But when I'm going and I'm explaining my own value, that why I am better than them, or I would say instead of explaining why I'm better than them, I'm providing a better value to you, I'm providing a better support to you. Instead of let's say going waiting for 10 days for a call, you can just call me in a one-to-one session and you can directly call me, ask me certain things. Why someone will not be interested in you? That's a very different perspective you have. But I think that is, for me, it's like pretty, I would say I won't go with that philosophy, and I think no one should go with that philosophy, right? Just because something is already there means you are over or you are finished. Definitely that is not a case. Okay, so I hope I have answered your question. Okay, and this field,
Yeah, thank you.
see, the currently I will tell you, not everyone is trying. Okay, even if you go and look at a whole YouTube also, you will not see like a very firm playlist where they are teaching every single generative AI. There might be there, but still they are still exploring. Even they don't know what things are there into that. Right? Just understand, 2 years means what, man? It's like a kid, a very long way to go. In next 5 years, that's what I told you. No, in next 5 years, something called as AI engine is gonna be very very huge thing. How it's gonna be very huge thing, that we'll discuss. Okay, but don't think in from that perspective. I mean, definitely keep, so if you have certain idea in your mind, start working on it. Okay, don't think there is already a market there or whether we're gonna establish there or not. That's the next thing. That's completely a marketing part, and that's completely how you sell it. So currently you are thinking from a perspective of a builder, like as a developer. So from that perspective, everything is already there then. Okay, so I do not worry about it. Okay, okay. Now see, so now, I think, guys, we talked a lot about what this whole field is. Right? We talked about classical NLP. We talked about deep learning. Then eventually we talked about how exactly you know we are moving ahead. Right? How we exactly talked about what are the different perspectives we are looking at. Right now, one very broad thing that I want to go into this particular field is two different perspective of this particular field. Right now, one field that I explicitly call it as a builder's view. Okay, now see, guys, the main idea about this builder's view is about transformer based architectures. Now let me tell you what these are. Now this builders view means these builders are those people who already have the knowledge about the complete things, like they have the knowledge about how AI works, or more than that, they have the very core understanding about machine learning, deep learning, how to build this models, how to fine tune these models, right? So they have the idea about it. Come on, man, just a second. So Mac is pretty bad when it comes to handling these kind of things. Actually, my writing mode is just on the way. Okay, it will get me by tomorrow, and I'm not sure. Okay, tomorrow it should be there. Okay, so now see, guys. Now, when I talk about this builder's perspective, so first thing that we talk about is transformer-based architectures. Means what? Let's say we talk about encoder. That's only BERT. Okay. We talk about, let's say, decoders. Okay. Let's say only GPT. Right? It's like a decoder only, right? Let's say now we have encoders and decoders. Now, guys, understand here. See. Now, first of all, what we'll do, we'll try to understand if you are into this building side. So basically, we have to be on the both, right? Like on a builder side also and the user side also. Okay, so now when you talk about this builder sides, so these are the core people who actually build all these kind of applications. Let's say they're trying to build this LLMs, they're trying to build this GPT type of models, they're trying to build all these kind of applications. Okay, so when you say that they're trying to build these kind of applications, means what? They have the very very great understanding about all these kind of architectures. They have the understanding about transformer based architectures, they have the understanding about simple encoder decoders, they have the understanding about how the classical NLP is working, classical training actually works, how to train the classical models, they have the idea about it. Okay, so in that particular part, what are the different things that let's say builders do? So there is something called as pre-training. Okay, means what they have to do is they have to think about something called as training objectives, like let me just write it here. Now see, when I talk about the training objectives, means what? Whatever you are trying to achieve, let's say you have to build the deep learning model, or let's say you have to build the NLP model. So now understand, when I say that they have to understand this objectives, like training objectives, means what? You should know what to do. Let's say, okay, I want to build a model like ChatGPT. That is what I want to do. Okay, so that comes under training objectives. So as a developer, as a builder, you have to think about it. Let's say I have to build a company, but what company? What it will do? What are the kind of things it will have? Okay, so these are the kind of things from the builder's perspective, right? So when we are into the builder side, so training objective is like one of the very very important things that we have to think about, right? Second thing is, guys, tokenization strategies. Tokenization strategies, guys. These lectures that I have prepared are very very broad. Okay, I mean, so what I'm saying is, whatever we are doing on a regular basis, there are multiple things I'm going to tell you to do. Okay, so you have to do it, right? So make sure you are doing that, so that you are on track with me, whatever we are doing, right? So when I talk about this tokenization strategies, so what exactly we mean by that? I think, guys, everyone now knows what tokenization is. Okay, for those who don't know tokenization, don't worry, we're gonna cover that in very simple terms. You can just say, whenever we have, let's say, a data, right? Let's say I have, let's say, huge amount of data. Let's say I have 20 different PDFs in together. Okay, so passing all the 20 different togethers at a once is nowhere possible, right? Means what? Okay, you will upload that, that's a different thing. But when you upload it, when inside any kind of model that you are building, how exactly training happens? First of all, that whole text is broken down into smaller chunks. Means, okay, small words together, small sentences together, like this we are trying to break that particular chunk, and then we are passing that particular chunk inside that. Every single chunk is being passed, 1 2 3 4, like this chunk is being passed. Not like we are picking and just throwing whole data out towards that. No, that is not what's happening. Okay, so these are the tokenization strategies that we have to think about, right? So it's from a builder's perspective. Now just understand, guys, imagine when we build a classical NLP model, like we have built a very perfect I think one project that we did, right? This duplicate question pair answers, that's such a high level project and such a wonderful project that we did. So in that, what we did, we had to think about all these particular things. Okay, training objective, what is that? Then tokenization strategies, what kind of tokens I need to use, right? What kind of tokenization techniques that I need to use. Okay, so which will be useful for this particular part. So tokenization techniques are TF-IDF is there, then bag of words is there, one-hot encoding is there, word to wake is there are multiple techniques that we have, okay, which are classical techniques. Now when you talk about let's say tokenization strategies, now we have OpenAI embeddings. Means OpenAI is already, just write that one word and pass the sentence, everything you are getting at one particular place. Now that is a user side. Okay, he do not have the idea here, so he is now into the user side. Okay, there is something called as OpenAI name. Just create the OpenAI, create the brackets, pass all your text, automatically doing everything. It do not have to think about what kind of tokens to use, what you have to do, nothing. Okay, so strategies, tokenization strategies is like a second thing that we have to think about. Then training strategies. Okay, strategies. Okay, now guys, understand training strategies. Now when I say training strategy, means what? Now we have to think, okay, what kind of models that we have to use to train this particular algorithm, right? Let's say we have a certain model, right? So then what kind of model I have to use, what kind of model will be helpful for me, right? So let's say there is a certain model that I have. Okay, so whether it's gonna be helpful or not. Let's suppose now we build an XYZ project. So in that particular project, whether random forest we have to use, or whether we have to use any deep learning model to train that particular thing. Because see, guys, it is just like now see, when you will understand the life cycle about, let's say machine learning engineer, or what kind of things that we do. Okay, so those who are not understanding about this cycle, right, so you can just ping me afterwards, there is no problem into that. But so understand, like when I talk about the cycle of a machine learning engineer, right, I think many of them know in very details, right. So it's like how exactly we start. We get the data, right, we do some kind of pre-processing on that data, then we try to select the features, then we try to train that particular model on certain algorithm, and then we try to deploy it. Okay, test it and deploy it. Now when we talk about this training strategies, right, so it is just like, let's suppose you have a very confusion. Okay, let's suppose whether I should take the classes from here or there. Okay, whether he'll provide me the better value or he'll provide me the better value. So means what, here you are thinking about a best option that is possible for you. Okay, so this is what exactly we have to do with respect to data also. There are multiple algorithms. If you talk about machine learning, there are like 20 different algorithms that you can solve the same problem with, right? But from that 20, which one is going to be the perfect for you? So that is where the training strategies comes into play, and that is where you need expertise. Okay, now understand. So someone might cross question and say, okay, hey, it is just a 20 algorithms, right? It's just 20. So then why not to just try all of them one by one and see which one is giving the better results? But guys, understand, is it really feasible? Is it really feasible? Definitely not. Because understand, when you say that okay, simply try every single thing, means what you are doing, 20 times you are running same data, wasting GPU, memory, and time, all the things together, and cost, of course, right? Because whatever sounds, understand, when a builder side, or let's say someone is trying to build an architecture like transformer, definitely the data is going to be huge. So guys, understand, this training that happens for these algorithms, right, so it goes for weeks and weeks. For weeks and weeks, is keep on training the models. So therefore we have to be very very particular about every single thing that we use, what kind of tokenization strategy we have to use, what kind of training strategies we have to use. Because understand, if you think, okay, if you use one algorithm now and after training you got to know that, okay, oh no man, this is not the one that I wanted and this is not giving the perfect results, now I have to try another one. Now guys, understand, when you say I want to try another one, means you have to perform the whole process again, all the tokenization again you need to do the training part into that, again you need to train that model. Understand the amount of efforts, time, every single thing you are wasting over there. So therefore what I told you, builder perspective has to be very very, he should be having a very deep knowledge about everything, very deep knowledge about everything. Okay, so that is about training strategies, like what kind of training strategies we have to think about. Next thing is handling the challenges. Handling the challenges. Now see guys, now when I talk about the handling the challenges, right, now see, every single model, let's say now you see a GPT today, so do you think like there was no problem that ever happened into the GPT or while building the GPT? Definitely it happened, right? Let's say they might have trained it once. Okay, first time they trained it. Okay, and they got to know that, okay, yeah, even we are asking a simple question, it's not giving the better results. So what can be a problem? Again, going back from the initial steps, say, okay, yeah, this step might have problem, this step might have problem, this step might have problem. So these are the different steps. Maybe the problem can be in the training phase, the problem can be in feature selection phase. Now understand, when I say a feature selection phase, means what guys? Let's suppose this is a particular thing I want to do, and these are the kind of people who are perfect for me. Let's say I want to learn a machine learning 1, 2 and 3, these are the people who are perfect for me, and this is where I should learn, then only I have a better chance to understand everything properly. But at the same time, if I including are people who are really not important to, let's say, this particular course, and still you are involving into them, so what's going to happen? Eventually the here performance is going to get down, somehow it's going to decrease. Okay, so while training any kind of model, you have to think about a lot of different parameters. Smallest of the parameters has to be thought about, how exactly that is going to affect, how exactly it will actually make sense, how exactly it is going to help you in a very longer terms. Okay, so this is what exactly we call it as a pre-training. Okay, means what, like you have to sorry, not pre-training, sorry, we have to think about handling the challenges, right? So how exactly going to handle the different challenges? Oh yeah, I just saw that word here, so just got eyes out like that. Okay, so I hope you understood, like from a training objectives, pre-training is like one of the things. Like when I talk about pre-training the model, we have to think about all this particular part, pre-trainings, right? Pre-training the models. Okay, so training objectives, tokenization strategies, training strategies, and handling the challenges. So these are the things that we have to think about. Second thing is, now see, as a builder's perspective, you have to think about the optimization optimization. Okay, now guys understand, in the optimization, first is training optimization. Okay, now see guys, I hope you might have understood this right now. In simple terms, what, like, you need to make sure ki how exactly the training is going to be optimized. Like, see, you also need to take care ki whatever thing you're doing or whatever thing you're trying to build, it should be optimized, right? So training should not take extra time, training should not have, like, extra parameters, training should not have so multiple parameters that we consider, so though that should not be an case. Okay, so here what we need to make sure is training optimization. That is like one of the very important thing when you talk about optimization. Second is about model comparisons, or we say the compressions, we can say. So in the model compressions also, what, like, try to build a model. Okay, try to have the model which will, let's say, no, which will be small but very very effective. Means it should not take, let's say, very very huge space. I mean, let's suppose the model itself is taking, let's say, 20 GB of space into it. So will anyone will ever use it? Definitely not, right? Let's say when even the application is of, let's say, more than 100 MB, we think two times to download it, right? Because we always expect it's lighter the weight, it's better, for user to use it. Okay, so then we have to think about that also. And then another thing is optimizing interference, optimizing the interference. Optimizing the interference. So I hope you have understood this from a builder's perspective. Still we are going there, right? So means what, a builders have to think about the complete architectures, right? What kind of architectures use, like, transformer architectures, like encoder decoders to use, or whether to use only encoder or only decoder, or whether it should just do, let's suppose now there is a certain task which might just need a pre-training, like, what kind of strategies needs to be applied over there. Okay, so all these kind of things, builders have to think. They have to think before building all these things. Let's suppose now some company has built an OpenAI, let's say they build a chat GPT, so they have gone through all these particular processes. Okay, they are not on user side, they're on the builder side, they're building it. Okay, and now second thing that comes into play, that is optimization. After that there comes something called as fine tuning. Now guys, see, fine tuning is both for both, right? I mean, even users also and for this one also. Now see, there can be a certain task, right, where you already have some kind of Hugging Face libraries there, or let's say there is some certain let's say model which is already in place. Okay, so when you talk about an Hugging Face, or let's say fine tuning a particular model, so at that time what we are doing, we are fine tuning that particular model on a certain parameters. Okay, on a certain parameters. Okay, let's say we have a particular task to do, so we are taking a particular model and we are fine tuning it. Okay, so fine tuning is of three different types. Let's say task specific fine tuning. Now guys, see, those who don't know, in very very simple terms, simplest of the terms, fine tuning means what? In Hindi we say किसी को किसी चीज के लिए ready करना. Like, someone don't means what, in simple terms, someone do not have the idea about something, so we are just trying to teach him to make sure that he will perform the better task next time. It is just like a fresher who is coming into the industry. We are training him for to do and getting on the particular projects. So when he is doing that, at that particular time only we will say, okay, yeah, that is a task specific thing. Means we are trying to fine tune that particular person who don't have an idea about that particular task. We are trying to fine tune him, we are trying to teach that particular task to him. So that is what exactly fine tuning comes into play, where we are trying to fine tune our task to do, let's say, specific thing. Okay, I am trying to fine tune a particular model to, let's say, teach my students. I am trying to fine tune a particular model to do, let's say, extract the text from the PDF. I'm trying to fine tune a model, let's say, to let's say build some certain thing around, let's say, image recognition model. So means what, we are doing that for a use case specific. Okay, that's very, use case is very specific, and around that we are trying to build that particular thing. Okay, so that is there. And when we talk about, let's say now GPT era, so we have something called as instructor fine tuning. Now we'll talk about this in very broad. When we comes, there is something called as in the continual fine tuning. So these are all techniques currently used in GenAI, and mostly PFT. Okay, it's called as parameter efficient fine tuning. Okay, so these are the things that are currently used very widely into the industries when you talk about fine tuning, right? Especially parameter efficient fine tuning. It just has its own advantages and disadvantages like that. Okay, and the last thing that comes into play, that is evaluation of that particular model. So whatever large language model or whatever model that you're building, definitely you need to think about the evaluating that particular model, right? Let's say how well it is giving the responses. Okay, yeah, you build it, that's fine, but whether it is actually usable or not, whether people gonna like it or not, whether it is giving perfect answers or not. So evaluation is like the another utmost important thing that we have to think from the perspective of builder. And the last thing is of course deployment, right? So yeah, you do everything, but if you don't deploy it, then eventually people won't see it, right? So deployment is the next thing. Okay guys, so this is the whole cycle of a builder perspective. Like you are a core let's say builder who is building all these particular applications, right? So now guys, what is there now? There is something called as user side, or let's say users perspective. Okay, okay, yes, yes, please.
Yeah, on the deployment side, are we going to see
Yes, MLOps.
um, what will be the optimal um, was it called DevOps, like how you deploy stuff, either deploying to the cloud or deploying as a software as a service, or where do we get to use deployment technique like microservices, like using containers or using Kubernetics, stuff like that? Do you think it will be covered in this class?
Yes, yes. Yes, of course, right? So therefore, I've explicitly mentioned that deployment is going to be the part of it. We'll be hosting mostly on the AWS only, right? Along with that, I will also tell you lot of different. Let's say now, if you talk about GCP, right, cloud. So they already have few models which can do all this LLM type of tasks for you. Okay, now there is something called as Ulma. So like this is just like a model where if you just download the software, so you can use this locally. Locally you can this particular let's say model which can be used into your own system, right? So it is going to be very effective, right? So yes, we'll be deploying on AWS server so that you understand that deployment side also. So guys, now understand this is like a complete developer side perspective. Means what developers are doing, they are pre-training. Let's say they are starting from the very basics. Okay, now see, I want to develop, let's say, something called as LLM or let's say ChatGPT. I need to think about every single perspective, right? I need to think about, okay, what kind of architecture I'll use, whether I'll go for encoder or decoder, or encoder decoder. Don't worry, every single thing will be covered in details. That's not an issue, but understand. So what I told you initially, there are in next 2 to 3 years or 5 years, I see AI engineer as a bigger role growing rather than a core data scientist, or rather than someone who is core into just user side. Okay, so AI engineer is going to be a pretty big thing in next few years. That is what exactly I think. Okay, now we that's what I'm telling you. Now we are moving there to understand what exactly that AI engineer is going to do. Okay, so from the builder's perspective, we have to think about all these kind of architectures, like what kind of architecture we'll use, then what kind of pre-training things that we have to use. Let's say training objectives will be what kind of tokenization strategies we're going to use, what kind of like how exactly we're going to handle these kind of challenges. So we have to think about that. Then again we need to think about the optimization. Then I told you about fine tuning. Let's say if you talk about a specific task, then we need to think, okay, how exactly we're going to fine tune that particular task on a certain thing, certain data, right? So this was all about what we call it as a perspective of a builder, a builder's perspective. Now when I talk about the user's perspective, okay, and see, this is where currently in this world 80 to 90% of the people are here only, right? Just simply using a simple APIs of ChatGPT, writing simple prompt engineering and all, and they're just creating the answers out of it and just claiming themselves to be a very big engineers. Okay, that is like 80% of them are just like making up the stuff. Very few have the builder side perspective, and very few have the perspective of both of them. So even that is the case, and maximum are here only because it's very easy to use. Now understand. Okay, see, I would what I say, users perspective. लाइट गेली, हॉटस्पॉट नाही तुझा, पटकन दे पटकन दे पटकन दे. Guys, is it audible now? Hello? 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 Yes, right? Okay, thanks. Okay, now see, guys. Now understand this. Uh, I still can't see. Yes. Okay. See, now when you talk about this builder's perspective, right? Now this is like where the main game-changing things are coming into this particular world. So when you talk about this user's perspective, what they are doing, building basic LLM apps. So what are things? All these particular things people are doing, alright? Let me explain that. User's perspective. First is building simple LLM apps. Means what they are doing is, see, understand, you already have a model in place. Let's say there is something called a chat gpt is already there. What you're doing, you're simply taking up the API of that chat gpt, and then what you're doing, you're just pasting that particular API for your own use. You're just doing simple prompt engineering around it, and you are trying to get the answer. Means now guys understand, see, that's why I told you, right, from my perspective, like this is very easy side, because you don't have to think about anything, right? Neither you have to think about building a particular model, neither you have to think about, let's say, how that model is going to be optimized very properly, neither you have to think about, let's say, how exactly you're going to think about any kind of fine tuning is here also, but in very simple terms, this is bit easier side than what we have seen into the builder side. Okay, so let's say building simple LLM apps, right? Then so there is something called as open source versus closed source LLMs. Means what? There are like open source LLMs and there are some closed source LLMs. Okay, so again, now see, when I talk about, let's say, few of the open source, let's say LLMs, and some of the closed source LLMs. Let's say now, suppose a very simple example can be, let's say, GPT is there. So GPT is like what? It is like completely an open source, like everyone can use it. Okay, so means what? Open source means what? Basically, they're self hosted, they're customizable, and they're very secure. That is what you call as a, let's say, sorry, they are called as an open source. So when I talk about open source, let's say best example is, let's say, Mistral 7b. So we'll be building a lot of things around this, right? So especially the tasks like summarization, right? So even like GPT can't do a better task of summarization than Mistral 7b. As far as I have used it, that is what I think. Oh, it's Friday night, 11:20 p.m. here. How long? Just like next 5 minutes. Okay, we are done, right? Okay. So let's say Mistral 7b is like one. Okay. Now that is small, efficient, but very highly capable for different tasks. That is like one. Okay. Then we have Llama 3. Llama 3. Okay. Similarly for that, Falcon is there. Okay, so these are like open source models. Means what? You can easily just take those models and you can integrate in your own system. And when you talk about, let's say, let's say closed source things, right? So then where there are like more of a, we can say, so in this particular open source things, you have more control over your own security, right? And when you talk about popular closed source things, let's say you talk about GPT, or you talk about Gemini 3.5, or sorry, Cloud A, you can talk about, right? So all this, let's say, all these particular things are closed source LLMs. Okay, so where then, so that is what exactly we say when we talk about open source LLMs and closed source LLMs. So these people just understand these simple things. Okay, yeah, there are like open source LLMs, there are like closed source LLMs. And now what they do is, they use something called as using LLM APIs. LLM APIs. They're doing all the tasks using simple LLM APIs. You don't have to think about their architecture. You don't have to think how they're being used. Very simply, they're taking the APIs and doing this particular task. And they're doing all this task with something called as LangChain integrated into it. Now, when I talk about LangChain, so you can just say that when the classical generative AI came into play, classical generative AI, in which, let's say, you have let's say you had you can just take a very simple example of classical generative AI can be, you have an API, you are writing the prompt by yourself, and then you're getting the answers out of it. But when you talk about a LangChain, right? So LangChain actually evolved this generative AI field in a very perfect way, because it added different components to it. Okay, so let's suppose it added the component called as optimizing the prompts. Means whatever prompt you are writing, it will just try to optimize that prompt by itself, by its own thinking and logic. It added the component of memory. Okay, means whatever past conversations are there, you can very easily store that into this particular LLMs. Sorry, LLM conversations can be stored inside the your own local storage also, like using something called as LangChain memory. Okay, so LangChain was very great evaluation. So they are using simple LangChain to build all these applications. Second thing is again using Hugging Face APIs. Like there are multiple sources where you can use this Hugging Face APIs. right? Then we have like Olma, that's I told you, right? So Olma is basically and software where you can just download it, and if you download this, then you can run any kind of open, let's any kind of model on your let's say system. Means let's suppose, okay, you download Olma, it will ask you, okay, what kind of model you have to use. Let's say I want to use GPT-4, so the GPT-4 will be started on your laptop. You can do any kind of task then over there. Okay, so just like running the models locally, running the LLMs locally is what we call as Olma. You can just use this Olma over there. Okay, and from all of them, what they're using, like say to perform all these things, what they're using, they're simply using something called as prompt engineering. Now we're gonna learn a lot about prompt engineering. There are different types of prompt engineerings, but you will see even the fields are coming up like a prompt engineer. Okay, then they use something called as rack based architectures, right? Then they're using something called as fine tuning. Now here also they're doing the fine tuning. We'll discuss more about fine tuning in later sessions in this. And now they're building more of agents now, where every single agent is trying to do some kind of task to it, right? Means some LLM is trying to handle certain task, another LLM is handling certain task, right? And then we have most important thing about LLM ops. Okay, so now guys, see, now when I talk about, let's say, such a broad category, right? So users perspective, now you can see that that is definitely much more easier to what exactly this builder perspective is. Okay, so now what we have to do is, we have to become an AI engineer. So all these people are there, so they are core data scientists. All these people are there, they are core, let's say, simple software engineers, who are just using simple things, just using an API and using the, building an application, just simply using a rack, just simply fine tuning it, simply, using the agents. But we want to be an AI engineer. Means we, so that's why I told you, this field is going to be pretty broad from now, right? Because we also have to think from this perspective also somehow, not in details. You also have to think from this perspective somehow, not in details. So this is where the role of AI engineer comes into play. Okay, so where you will have the idea about both the different aspects in very details, where you will have that thing, okay, yeah, how exactly things gonna work in a very I would say detailed manner. So means you are also understanding how simple LLMs are working, you are also understanding how exactly they're building, and you are also understanding how we can actually use them to solve our own task. So both the things are coming in very big terms. Okay guys, so I hope, first of all guys, that's all from my end. I think 2 hours that you have to spend, right? I mean, please manage. Okay, it's just a matter of few months. Okay, so it's like it's we start your session 7 a.m. in the morning. So if we start more earlier than that, then maybe people who are joining from India, they might have a problem, right? Like just 7 a.m. It's like already a bit early. So I think for few days just manage it, right? I mean, it's just a 3 days a week, right? And two of them are weekends, so you don't have to worry much about that. So for few sometime just manage it, okay, don't worry. And yeah, so guys, first of all, everyone like understood the session, like you all like the session, how was it, any reviews on it? Great, thank you. Yes. Okay, so in general guys, I, in very simple terms, that is what we expect. We expect to be a we expect to be an AI engineer, not like a very core data scientist. Because let's say from 3 years from now, like previously, like 3 years before, I could have told you, okay, you have to be a very proper data scientist, right? Like you should know the statistical models also very properly. But today's world, I would say, not too much. Yes, it is required, but like not like in a very extensive way. Yes, please, someone raise the hand.
Yes, that's me.
Okay.
Hi. So I have a question about, because we're all here to get a job. I have finished the data science with Data is Good, but you were the teacher, remember? And then data analytics course, I did it through Caltech, very reputable school here in the United States.
Okay.
Now that whenever I apply for jobs, let's say if I apply for a very junior level data science or data analytic jobs, I'm getting so many declining letters all the time. There is nothing going on. I try different ways, different websites. I don't know what is something I'm doing wrong, or am I applying to the wrong field? And now we're talking about AI engineer, which is even higher. To me, it sounds like it's even in a higher ranker than data analyst job. So if I cannot land a job in as a even interns too, like I'm trying to get a job as an intern, it's not happening. Do you think AI engineering will be happening for me or for the other students here who are trying to get into this field in USA market?
Okay, see, so the first of all, one thing I'll tell you, when we talk about this AI engineer role, right? So currently the thing is, the boom is very very high. Means people actually need, and see, the thing is, the biggest advantage that you have is it is not very very difficult to understand. Means just understand what you're doing. You are simply writing the prompts. You are simply using the third party things and doing the stuff. But at the same time, the kind of projects we'll be doing with respect to this particular term called as agentic AI or generative AI, good 5 to 6 projects that we are doing. And see, it's not like we're gonna start applying from there at that time. So from tomorrow itself, we're gonna start doing certain things, right? So whenever you have the times, okay, so everyone, I'll be pinging you on your groups also. I'll ping you, so you have to meet at a certain time with me. So there, we'll start building your resumes immediately, because I think that is where the thing is lacking. Okay, second thing is you are not connecting with the people on LinkedIn very very properly, or neither you are approaching them very very properly, neither you are searching the things very properly. Now understand, like I send I keep on sending you a lot of different openings in USA only, right? Like these are the kind of openings are there. So see, what you do is, start building your network, like start connecting the data scientists who are into your area, in your own localities, or let's say it's in USA. Okay, start connecting all these people. So once you are connecting with all these particular people, whenever you see a, let's say, a certain job opening on any kind of website or on a LinkedIn or anywhere, try and go to their website. It's on LinkedIn, go to the people section, try to connect with different people and ask for the reference. Okay, hey man, please, like it's been so long, I have been looking for a job, I have this certain kind of things, this is the resume, I have done these kind of projects, and see if we can get the referrals from there, because that is working to 90% of the people, because it's a referral world. Because if you start and apply directly, it's getting a bit difficult. And second thing is what, when someone actually finds that okay, you have done something nice work or some kind of good projects, and if you have the good understanding about it, so I don't think that is really gonna be a problem to get into it. So therefore that's why I told you, no, so these 3 months, it's not only about only teaching, right? So even other batches that I take, it's all about from a very basics. We are starting as soon as the Python is done, we are starting, we start to apply immediately, because mock interviews are there, we are applying, so they get an idea okay, what kind of stuff should be answered over there. Then second thing is, whatever projects that you are writing, how exactly you are explaining those projects. Let's say the specific question that is asked is, okay, what is your role in this particular project? So now in that particular part, what you should explain, what exactly is the answer that you should have. So all these particular things are pretty important to think. Okay, so I think that is how is my plan with you all, because I'm working with the US market pretty closely, and I can see that there are many people who actually want people who can work on a very good scale with them. But okay, but yeah, let's see. Okay, I mean, therefore, very first day only, what I told, and to every batch only, that the same thing I tell, ki I don't commit anything to anyone. One thing is there, just follow it for 3 months. The way I have designed this particular whole program, and the way we're gonna move towards it, there are pretty high chances. I would say more than 90% chances that soon you will get somewhere with a very good designation. Okay, but whatever things I've told, at least start with that. Don't worry, I'm gonna connect with each and everyone, right? Whatever people are there, I'm gonna connect with you, talk about your problems, how we can optimize your resumes. Then eventually I need to build your portfolios, so for that I'll give you the website, like where you can post all your things, so you can showcase that particular website to everyone. Okay, this is my website, please check it, I've done a lot of work. See, when you try rigorously for a month or two, it's impossible that you don't get anything, right? As far as you have that certain knowledge, and as far as you have the perfect approach to do it, I see that impossible not to get anywhere. Okay. Okay then guys, I think I already have a session lined up at 9, so it's already 9 past. So thank you so much for joining everyone today, uh, and I'll see you all tomorrow, right? Whatever issues you have, whatever doubts you have, directly ping me, right? And one more thing is, I'll be connecting with you separately, everyone, just to know like what is the current stage and everything, so that we can start building the portfolios also. So for that, there will be another session that I'll ping you about. Okay.
So the class is 3 days a week from our time 7 to 8:30, or is it 1 hour? Or is
No,
it 1 hour
it's
30
it's two
minutes?
hours session. Okay, 3 days a week. Okay. Apart from that, there will be a project sessions that will be again another 4 hours a week. Okay, and those sessions will be not on a regular basis. Let's say now we are done with NLP task, NLP thing. So for that, when we have to do one project, so for that there will be another 2 hours. Let's say Saturday and 2 hours Sunday. So that time will be managed. Let's say not apart from this time, right? Apart from teaching time that we are taking over there. So because
Okay, and is it the classes are being recorded?
yes, of course, sir. It's all been recorded. Everything you will see on my platform dashboard. Okay. Soon you will get access to all the dashboards. Everything you will get an access to. All I told you is just go and register there. I have already told everyone. And one more thing, guys. Like I have to provide many of you with the internship certificates, or we can say experience letters. Okay. So on our channel, go on a LinkedIn, follow it, and start. Okay, yeah, you have started working as an intern with us. Okay, so what happens, let's say even someone, okay, when you're adding an experience, okay, 6 months I have worked over here, so then at least they should know, okay, from where, when exactly you started working over there, right? Because all these things are shown, so therefore just added that, so that it will just not create any conflicts when actually you will get a. So Adson Godson has done it, the way he has done it, just do it in that way, so that it is seen, okay, yeah, you're already working somewhere, because that also matters. People expect the number now, okay, the number of experience should be pretty high, so in that particular way. Okay, so therefore only I told you, I'll be connecting personally, because see, a lot of things I need to understand. What is your previous field? If you're completely fresher, then that's a different part. But what kind of field currently you are into, what kind of field you have worked with, so maybe maybe you can try to add that kind of previous experience, and we can showcase that as a data scientist somehow, like, okay, you have previously worked there on certain kind of projects. Okay, so that, see, the idea is, we know that we have a knowledge. The only problem that's currently lacking is the number of experience. People are expecting some number, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, like that. Okay, but when we don't have that, then definitely there is a struggle, okay, I would say. Because even in I would say 2019 around, or that time, it took me 4 months to get into this market, though I took it pretty good, pretty fast. But as a fresher, it's a bit difficult to enter this such high fields. So one thing I would say is, that again, I don't guarantee anything. It's like, how whatever things you will do, that's up to you. But what's 100% assistance I'm giving you, that there are more than 90% chances I'm giving you from my end. Whatever things I'm telling you on a regular basis, if you follow it, there are high chances that you will definitely work at a good place. Okay. One thing is that I can't commit any salary ranges, right? So if you're asking how much, there are many people, okay, they ask, okay, how much we can earn. It's like, okay, first of all, start, then think about the money part, okay? So that much, I can definitely say to you. Okay. So then, thank you so much, guys. It was wonderful interacting with you all, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Okay. Bye bye, everyone. Take care.